From the News Channel 5 Network, this is Inside Politics.
Hello, everyone. I'm News Channel 5's political analyst, Pat Nolan. Welcome to Inside Politics. We've been down this road before during the pandemic. While the number of cases, hospitalizations, and deaths has declined a bit in recent weeks, creating the feel that perhaps Thanksgiving and the holiday season might be closer to normal, whatever that is. There's still the Delta variant out there, and now there's a new variant also coming in, Omicron. Tennessee is also in a very different place, with the Republican supermajority in the legislature recently making major changes in the protocols to fight COVID-19. To bring some insights and wisdom as to where things stand and what may lie ahead, we welcome back to Inside Politics Dr. Alex Jahangir. He's the chair of the Metro COVID-19 Task Force. Doctor, welcome, and thank you for coming back on the program.
Truly my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
This new Delta variant is called Omicron. It appears to be even more contagious than Delta, but I think the real question that most people have is it going to overturn what's going on with the vaccines we already have, and the vaccines still going to work?
You know, I think the short answer, if we're being honest with ourselves, is that we don't know yet, right? So Omicron is a new variant of this that is coming out, that's first recognized in South Africa. I mean, who knows where it started. But it has about 30 to 50 mutations on it, where Delta had maybe 9 or 10. It's still too early to see if vaccinations make a difference. It appears that it's more likely a mild symptom when people get it. But I think the key is we don't know for sure yet, but vaccinations, I think, are still a great thing to do.
There are the reports you're talking about from South Africa that people who are getting it have very mild symptoms. Does that mean don't worry about it?
Well, I think what we know is that we don't know a lot, because one thing I would highlight is the people in South Africa that they've sequenced that have it are all younger people, and as we've learned through this entire pandemic, the young typically have milder symptoms. So I think it's too early to say with certainty.
How long will it take to figure out where we stand with that? How about particularly on the vaccines, and what's going to be enough to not worry about? In other words, what if we go down to 50% effectiveness from the vaccines?
Yeah,
do we need a booster at that point? Another booster?
I think within the next two weeks or so, we're going to have a good sense if vaccinations are going to help. We're going to have a good sense of how widespread this is, and until then, I think we continue doing what we're doing. And if a booster is what's needed, then I suspect the science will know soon.
We do see some top officials from some of these companies that are making these vaccines that they're seeing a major change possibly coming about the serums they already have to fight this disease. Do they know something that we don't, and they're not telling us yet?
You know, again, I think it's still too soon for them as well, right? I think a pharma executive's job is to make sure that their drug is always top of mind and always used. What I really appreciate by the work of especially the mRNA vaccines is that you can quickly modify it, and I've heard within 100 days one could get a modification of what's needed. But I think it's too early to make those wild statements that the vaccine's not effective, we need to change it, everyone needs a new booster.
One of the things about having yet another booster is going to be in how quickly they're done. There's already a lot of pushback and concern about how quickly they were done in the first place, and these would be even more that way. Are we just building up more vaccine hesitancy and more vaccine opposition by doing that?
Well, I think the premise of your question is that speed equals bad, right? And I think that's I need to just debunk that right away. These vaccinations that have been approved within the United States have all gone a very thorough regulatory process. What I think it shows you is how amazing this country works when you put every resource, every scientist, and take away some of the red tape to be able to put together some solid vaccines. And Operation Warp Speed, which came under President Trump, really allowed these vaccines to come to market fast. But I don't believe any corners were cut, and we're just seeing new technology and how quickly it can be adaptable.
2 weeks ago, 10 days ago, we'd never heard the word Omicron. Now it's in at least 25, maybe more countries across the world. It didn't come to the U.S. until sometime earlier this week. As far as I know, you may know better than I do, have any cases been detected in Nashville or Tennessee? And for that matter, who's doing the detection? Is the Metro Health Department doing that? Is Vanderbilt doing that? Is the state doing that?
So, to my knowledge, there's been no cases in Tennessee or Nashville, but it's going to happen, right? So I think everyone should just be aware. You know, I think we've seen it in Minnesota, New York, California. The way detection works is normal PCR tests that we get for when you're worried about COVID. A certain percentage of those are sequenced by the state, and if those are randomized ones are sequenced for the Omicron, then they'll announce it. But again, I don't think it changes anything, right? It doesn't change what we need to do, which is to get vaccinated, is to use some common sense, wear a mask where you feel you're at higher risks. So in my mind, I just want to highlight again, doesn't change anything, and we need to keep vaccinating.
A lot of countries, including the United States, have put in travel bans to keep people from coming from other countries that have been known to have it. South Africa, some other African nations. Do travel bans really work? I mean, this thing's spreading all around anyway, so what difference does the travel ban make?
That's a great question. You know, I don't actually know the effectiveness of travel bans. I think, you know, especially places like the World Health Organization have some concerns around it. What really works is knowing that you're affected with COVID quickly. So of rapid tests and access to knowing if you're positive or not fast, then keeping those individuals from entering the country, I think is really important.
President Biden's making another change for people that are coming into the country or coming back to the country. They're American citizens. They're going to have a negative COVID test to come back in, not 3 days before they come back, but 1 day. That's a pretty quick turnaround, and I think people are going to be concerned whether they can not only get the test done, but can they get the results back that quickly? Is the technology that good, and who's going to pay for that? Because usually to get it expedited costs a lot more money.
Well, you know, I can tell you that here in Tennessee, here in Nashville, the labs that are really good at turning around now. They can give you that 24 hours. I suspect the same technology exists overseas. As far as who's going to pay for it, I think that's a really broad question to be answered. I know just yesterday, the President Biden's administration put out that they're going to make rapid tests available, like home over-the-counter tests available to everyone, and then they're going to have insurance pay for that. So that's a really important thing, and that also may qualify.
Do you think the next step on all this might be requiring unvaccinated people not to travel, or if those who do come on have to show a negative COVID test before they come on domestic flights?
You know, I think the best way to be protected is to be vaccinated, and if you're not vaccinated and showing a negative test is definitely a much easier way to confirm that everyone is less likely to have the virus. So, you know, whether you mandate you have to have vaccinations to travel like Canada has right now. So in Canada, you can't get on a domestic flight unless you're vaccinated. You can't get on a cruise ship in Canada unless you're vaccinated. There's a lot greater sense of comfort in that scenario.
Dr. Alex Jahangir is the chairman of the Metro COVID-19 Task Force. He's our guest on Inside Politics. Back to continue our conversation with the doctor after you watch these messages.